प्रिंट आउट लाया था सर, पुराने बैग में रह गए। इट्स मेरे पास है इसमें जो कर लीजिए आप लोग, इसमें देख लीजिए। मेल पे आता रहता है ना, प्रिंट मत करिए, प्रिंट मत करिए। So it was last 4 verses of this chapter. दुरावासघरा दुःखा दुःखो समन्नातम वत्सो दुःख अनुपत्तित अद्दगु तस्माना चद्दगुसिया न च दुःखनोपतितो सिया। दुःख मुश्किल, मौन को बनना काफी मुश्किल था। दुरावासा घरा दुख, दुराभिरमम, इसमें एंजॉय नहीं कर सकते, डिफिकल्ट टू एंजॉय। दुरावासा घरा, घर में आवास करना भी दुख है, बहुत मुश्किल है। हाउस होल्ड वगैरह लाइफ भी कोई आसान नहीं। दुखो असमन संवासो, संवासो मतलब साथ रहना, असमन मतलब जो आपके बराबर नहीं हो या जिससे आपकी रिलेशनशिप ठीक ना हो। दुख अनुपतिता अद्धगु, अद्धगु मतलब जो घूमता रहता है। यहाँ पे घूमने का मतलब है संसार में घूमने का। सो इवन दी वॉन्डरर इज बीसेट, मतलब मॉन्क बनो चाहे वो हाउस होल्डर रहो चाहे वॉन्डरर रहो, परेशानी तो है ही। अद्धगु तस्मा न चद्दगुसिया, therefore don't be a wanderer and do not fall into suffering. न दुख अनुपत्तितो, don't fall into suffering.
यहाँ wanderer से किस क्या
wanderer से अभिप्राय है जो one who is going through the round of cycle of birth and death, in the, wandering in the long road of samsara.
Right.
So the story is associated about a monk. जो नया नया आया था, उसने देखा मैं शादी में बड़ा फेस्टिवल हो रहा है, लोग एंजॉय कर रहे हैं, मैं यहाँ बैठा परेशान हो रहा हूँ। तो बट वेरी डिससेटिस्फाइड, और उसने कहा हमारा तो संसार में सबसे बुरी हालत हमारी है और किसी की नहीं। So Deva appeared and told him, ऐसा नहीं है, जो हेल में है वो हेवंस को एनवी करते हैं, जो शहर वाले हैं वो तुमको एनवी करते हो. तो उसको थोड़ी समझ आई. So he realized the truth and then he told his story to Buddha, who then admonished him with this verse. He told him that he should reflect on the impermanence and pain in all the modes of living.
साधो
Sadhu.
सद्धो सिलेना संपन्नो यशो भोग समाप्तितो
समर्पित
यम यम पदेशम भजति तथा तथैवा पूजितो.
श्रद्धो मतलब जिसमें श्रद्धा है, शीलेन संपन्नो जो शील से संपन्न है, यशो होगा समर्पितो जो कि यश से वेल्थ से भी परिपूर्ण है सब. यम यम पदेशम भजति जिस जिस प्रदेश में जाता है तथा तथैव पूजितो देयर इटसेल्फ ही रिस्पेक्टेड. सो whatever region a man of faith and possessed of virtue and endowed with fame and wealth goes to, that there he is respected. So this is the story of a disciple, lay disciple of Honorable Sariputta, who had become an Anagami. So he once came to Savatthi to pay respects to Buddha with huge cartloads of things. He stayed there for many days and kept on donating it. As the story goes, his goods did not diminish. So he kept on donating and goods kept on replenishing. So therefore, when he had to leave, he said, I am giving all of everything to you. And then when he started leaving, again carts were full again. So the devas were filling them up with priceless things every time. So when Ananda reported this to Buddha, then the Buddha replied with this verse. That Chitta is, this person by the name Chitta is bound to be revered wherever he goes. He is a man of great virtue and faith.
दूरे संतो पाके सन
पक्का संति प्रकाशित होता है दूरे से ही.
हिमवंतो वा
पर्वत हिमवंतो बर्फ से ढका हुआ पर्वत.
पपतु असापेता
असंत था जो संत नहीं है.
न तिसरंती
नहीं लिखते
रथिं चित्त यथा
सर होता है. सर मतलब जो एरो है. दूरे संतो प्रकाश दूर से ही प्रकाशित होते हैं संत लोग, जैसे हिम से बर्फ से ढका हुआ एक पर्वत. असंते था न तिसंती जो असंत लोग हैं, जो विकेट लोग हैं वो दिखते ही नहीं है. कैसे रत्तिम खिता यथा सरा, जैसे रात को आप एक एरो शॉट कर दो तो दिखेगा नहीं. तो दैट इज द स्टेटस ऑफ द
लोग आजकल तो थोड़े फेमस है,
परिस्थितियाँ बदल रही हैं.
want to be like that. The TV पे सब वही दिखता है.
The implication here is in a different sense. When you read the story, then you realize seen means seen by the good people. It is a story about daughter of Anath Pindaka by the name Chuda Subhada. So when she was married and she went to another village to live with her father-in-law's family, but they were not disciples of Buddha, they were disciples of the naked ascetics, the Niganthas, Jnana ascetics. So Subhada told her mother-in-law that she wanted to invite Buddha for meet, and then she said, fine, go ahead. But she was now living in a far-off place, so she mentally invited him. And Buddha knew it and came, and he accepted the invitation. Yeah. Then next day, the same day, Anath Pandika went to the monastery there and said, "You come to my house tomorrow." He said, "No, I'm going to your daughter's house." So they I knew figure area. So then Buddha told him that I have accepted her invitation. I can see her. So that's the implication, that the good ones can be seen and heard. And he passed away before Buddha.
And the Tirthankaras before Mahavir therefore are
Much
found.
ago, yes. So there was a period when Mahavir and Buddha were overlapping, they were simultaneously present, but they never met. Disciples of Mahavir coming to Buddha, that is reported in many discourses. Coming and questioning him, and trying to put him down, that kind of thing. Many discourses.
And so does Buddha express an opinion on that tradition, on those
Yeah,
teachings?
he asks them through questions. When they come and question him, he counter questions, and then they see the limitation of what they think, and accordingly, many of them, probably most of them, become disciples.
Yes, it's interesting. There is this gentleman called Kananyaman Lodha. I don't know, you might be familiar with him.
Heard about it.
He's close to Goenkaji. Who has written this book, which I've read, where he shows how the Jain meditation techniques are apparently exactly the same or similar to what the Satipatthana says.
Maybe. At least, I don't know about that tradition, but at least the way I have heard about Prikshadhan and all, they're quite different. And this Prikshadhan was kind of, should I say, and must not use a disrespectful word. It was evolved from Vipassana by Muni Ji. जैन मुनि थी, अभी सीनियर जिनका देहावसान हो गया. Anyway, the senior monk of Jain order, he had sat number of courses with Jain, and then he said that it is similar, and it is quite similar to what is in our tradition. And then there in that tradition it is called Prekshadhan. And then they reflect on colors. So they say that going out, going in, this color is going out, this color is coming in. And that's how they kind of engulf the body with that color. And accordingly the effects of that in different ways. So to that extent I am known for that.
और ये self और impermanence वगैरह पे
So the impermanence is standard thing, but they believe in a soul. Jain concept is very near to Hindu concept. They believe in the existence of the soul. Because it is very counterintuitive to think that there can be rebirth and not reincarnation. These two things seem quite similar. So, the question naturally arises, if there is rebirth, who is reborn? And you can always bound to ask that question. So it needs a great penetration to be able to see that there can be rebirth without reincarnation. So I'll read out the fourth verse, the last verse. Ekasanam, ekaseyam, ekocharam atandito, ekodamyam attanam, vananteram itosya. Ekasanam matlab अकेले ही बैठा आसन, sits alone Ekasayam, sleep alone. Ekocharam, to your charika, do wander alone. Atandito, without being indolent. Eko damyangattanam, so one should subdue himself by himself alone. Vanante ramatosya, so you should, vanante is, vana you remember is translated both as forest as well as desires. So here the appropriate word is, so you should find delight in extinction of desires. At one place I also read, you should find delight in living in the end of the forest. So you could, maybe that also is a meaning.
Because it starts with that one sit alone.
Alone and all that. So there are two translations. The Radhakrishnan translates it as desires, the other book translates it as the forest. So the story is about one monk by the name Eka Vihari, who always used to sit alone, eat alone and not mix with the rest of the monks. So the other monks did not understand why he was doing so and then told the matter to Buddha. And he praised Eka Vihari and told this verse. It is good that he wants to concentrate on meditation, seclusion, and not get indulged in living in a congregation.
That's from a householder's point of view, ये seclusion वाला किस तरह से अपन वो करते हैं?
Periodically करते हैं, शिविर में जाते हैं, because farming में come up farming to take time, one of the important ones is Shravan Kitab, which can of course be interpreted both ways in terms of mental as well as spiritual. You can be renunciate mentally and yet live in the Indian tradition. The story of King Janaka is supposed to be like that. He was called Raj Rishi, king, but still living like Rishi. So that's the story associated with him, that he was an enlightened person. To the extent that stories say that some rishis used to send their novices for training to his palace in what it means to be unattached.
So seclusion here may not be taken literally as seclusion.
Yeah, but it literally also is good. About King Janaka, there are very interesting stories. There's a story about sage Ashtavakra, you might have heard him. So he was deeply impressed by Janaka. So, and sage Ashtavakra had also attained a great reputation. So he had a number of disciples. So he used to send his disciples after they had attained certain level of understanding. He would send the last lesson you will get from Emperor Janaka. You go to his palace and live with him. So some of them used to feel surprised. So one of the stories is that one monk went there, just with the barest minimum of his things in a bag. As they go, he went and stayed and found Janaka living in great opulence and for a strange place we have sent us, and he keeps us telling us to be renunciate and not. And here he is living in great opulence and there is a huge palace. And there's some strange, feeling of discomfort. So then King Janaka once took him. After a few days, they went to a stroll in the evening. So he took him far away to a hillock. And they are talking, and Janaka was telling him about what it means to be a true renunciate, and what it means, what does unattachment mean. So this young monk keeps on listening, half-heartedly. क्या मेरे को बता रहा है, खुद तो practice नहीं करता. So then they go far off, hill के ऊपर चढ़ जाते हैं. वहाँ से वो देखते हैं कि उधर जनकपुरी में तो आग लग गई है. Whole thing is red and crimson, so whole sky is crimson. So he says, King, your capital is burning. So I'm too far off from there. I can't do anything, it's fine. Let's discuss. He says, well, you may have enough things to spare. I have only small box there. मैं जाके लेके आता हूँ, वो जल जाएगा, मेरा कुछ है ही नहीं. So he tells him this is what is attachment and what is unattachment. And he realizes I seem to be more attached to my one bag, while the king is not attached to the whole kingdom. And as the story goes, there was no fire, it was only a sunset which got created into a situation of that kind. So that story has got stuck with me for a long time.
You can apparently be renounced
And get attached.
and yet
So story, just to कितने मेरे पास तो एक ही बैग है उसमें 2 कपड़े हैं मैं तो अपने वाले कुछ नहीं रहेगा. Interesting story. Some of these stories are very powerful message. Very powerful message. These are Quranic stories with a great message.
there is a colleague of mine who is in London these days who spends 10 days at Amravati.
That's it.
I was speaking with her कि अगर कुछ मौका मिले
एटलीस्ट उनसे ये पता कर सकते हैं कि आजकल राम को कहाँ है.
हाँ वो now he was not there at that time.
No, he's not there. He's that thing like. But those monastery people would know. Because he is revered very much, so they would know his program.
I was actually I now track some of that through the जो इनकी ये वाली है ना नानाचार not नानाचार. So we recently तो वहीं थे some week or 10 days. हाँ क्योंकि उनके वो schedule आता है.
But he actually came back to US अभी last month itself for that Guru Purnima.
लंदन में
हाँ.
अच्छा नहीं गए.
एक्चुअली उनका उसका बर्थडे भी था
जो वहाँ है नंबर
उनका 80th बर्थडे था.
नहीं 80th तो इसका होगा. सुमेधो का 80th बर्थडे होगा. वो तो बहुत छोटा है.
कहीं मैंने ऐसा सुना है.
80th बर्थडे में
अभी रिसेंटली उनका यूट्यूब पे एक नया लेक्चर भी अपलोड हुआ था. उसका टाइटल था सिटी ऑफ 10,000
आप जरा पता करो उनका लोकेशन वगैरह where he can be tracked.
मैं तो in fact I read the Wattpad Amateur website.
उसमें इंडिकेटेड था कि उनका शेड्यूल इंडिकेटेड था.
दरअसल वो बताते तो हैं कि टॉक्स यहाँ ये
Is he conducting any retreat? ऐसा है क्या?
retreat तो मुझे टॉक्स ही दिखे हैं.
वापस वहाँ तो करें है.
हाँ वही उनकी वहाँ पे तो देखी जब हमने देखी थी उस वेबसाइट में कुछ नहीं था.
नहीं
वो तो कहते हैं चिट्ठी लिखो. वो तो ईमेल भी नहीं जान मानते हैं. आप एक्सेप्टिंग
नहीं वो तो वही है शेड्यूल.
चिट्ठी लिखो. वो चिट्ठी पहुँची ना पहुँची उसमें क्या था.
Or on that other the Abhayagiri website also that also lists the upcoming schedule. So if you are alert, then you can catch it.
Yeah, if they are visiting those places.
हाँ वो तो उसी तरह से. You have to keep trawling it.
But we can't. This island is much closer and reachable.
You know, incidentally, रात को मेरे दिमाग में एक ख्याल आया. Because I was thinking, not with respect to Sumedho, but just with respect to Wattpad Amateur accepting lay people for a certain period of time. To actually go and spend some time there. पर मैंने ये किस्सा इसलिए रेज किया because that lady was telling me that she found the monastery in her words to be a 5-star place. हाँ नहीं
अमरावती.
ये आपने जब narrate किया तो मुझे
It must have been. But if you listen to discourses of Sumedho, what was it when they were there? कि वो क्या था एक the logs were falling down and they used to sleep there. And ये लोग बाकी एक दो जो बाकी मॉन्क्स थे वो कहते रहते थे कि कब ये गिरेगा कब हम इसी के नीचे आ जाएंगे. So the initial phases they must have, because of the reputation, people must have come and donate place. Initially they were in, I mean it was a totally derelict building. So those initial discourses पढ़ते हैं तो उसमें ऐसा ही लगता है. But honestly it must have picked up after the reputation increased. Ashoka Tanish.
After की बहुत हो गई हैं, they have a
Yeah,
extremely large number.
yeah, there is monasteries in England, America, Russia, South Africa.
You want to go to take up? I thought you wanted to finish something.
I wanted to, there were two small last sections left. Maybe we can skip and start with
ठीक है, चल। इधर आ जाओ बेटा।
Skip करें?
skip करें और फिर start करें।
We're in a hurry to break through.
In fact, as I was reading this over the last week, there were several reflections that came up. One of them that was that there seem to be a lot of similarities with how Sri Aurobindo has outlined consciousness and so on and so forth. At least that's what I felt. So I'll request you when we go through it to make those connections if there are, or correct the understanding if there are.
It is there. If you can make a classic Advaitic, which tallies with Eckhart Tolle completely.
Mhm.
Eckhart Tolle also talks about from the Advaitic perspective. Who are you? I am that consciousness which is presence, which one can feel in the body in the form of, say, in the tradition of Goenka, you will say, when you feel that the whole body is dissolved, you feel there is energy, no? Body is a bunch of energy. And that bunch of energy we call as the real I. So you can call it pure consciousness. If you call it pure consciousness, it will always be the Advaitic part of that I.
Mm-hmm.
So you identify yourself with that rather than with the body and the mind, which is what Adi Shankaracharya and all of the Advaitic teachers, Ramana Maharshi, Sarvadatta, Sri Aurobindo, the same basic thoughts. The difference is in their understanding and their explanation of how does one really work in that direction. Sri Aurobindo believes in integral yoga, doing all the part of the activity and all that. Others say it is pure understanding. Once you understand, everything falls automatically. It's a matter of
What I found here was his reference, Eckhart Tolle's reference to the evolution of consciousness. He actually used that phrase, which almost seems to be a pickup from Aurobindo, because Aurobindo is full of this, at least the bits that I'm familiar with.
Read that there's a full booklet on that. Evolution of consciousness.
And interestingly, the notion, and that's where I actually got stuck and I put this down here, the notion that humanity as a whole seems to be evolving in a certain direction.
That has been a thought with many great thinkers. Even the Jesuit priest Teilhard, have you heard about him? Teilhard de Chardin. He was a scientist as well as a Jesuit priest. Scientist of evolution, believing in evolution. He's supposed to have discovered what they call paleontologist, that is his exact description. He discovered the fossil which came to be known as the Peking man. So he was in a sense ostracized by the church for his science. So he was told that you choose between the two. He says, no, I want to do the both of them. What will you do to me? So they made a condition that you will not publish your work till you are alive. So he did publish. So he remained a Jesuit priest as well as a scientist. And all his work and thought processes were published after his death. It's a book called The Phenomena of Man. It's to be a classical book. Very difficult to read. Very, very difficult to read. supposed to be, at least in the West, supposed to be one of the most influential books of the 20th century, because it gave that whole concept of evolution of consciousness from a man to a, what he called a Superman or Omega, called it. And people say he projected a kind of a new sphere, that in the world there's a knowledge sphere. And people have said that is what is internet. That he put it in a different language. So the whole sphere of knowledge has been created, and then there will be a Omega meaning where there is a super consciousness of people have all become evolved, and they become quote unquote good people, become enlightened beings. That has also been a very strong influence.
मुझे दोस्तों इसमें विडंबना ये दिखती है कि isn't our understanding that this is actually cyclic.
Yeah.
तो ये कलयुग सतयुग, and I've in fact written that there. ये कलयुग सतयुग का चक्कर क्या है? Because that doesn't seem to me, from my understanding, to talk to the concept of a unidirectional evolution.
It's not that the process is going to be a majoritarian thing, that all this 7 billion people will get enlightened. एक जगह वो कहते हैं जहाँ से मैं भी, so I don't put my eggs in that basket. But it is possible. The issue being made is that the mankind which is engulfed even now in deep materialism, there is a stream of evolution also happening. I don't know if you remember, I used to put it in our science and humanity classes. If you study the history from the West especially, if you see before 7th century, 8th century, 9th century BC in the West, the recorded information from Socrates, pre-Socrates information, the worldview was crassly materialistic, extremely materialistic worldview.
So it has nothing to do with technology.
Yeah. No, technology is offshoot of it actually. So it was, the worldview was extremely materialistic before Socrates, and Socrates was one mutation who created a kind of stir in the society, in the Western society. Then Socrates followed by Plato and Aristotle. So these people kind of churned up the atmosphere there at that time, 6th century BC. That's why from 6th century BC onwards, it is called an axial age, an age where the spiritual thought process again caught up. Till that time they say there was a continuous degeneration in thinking, materialistic thinking was supreme. So then at one end we had Socrates, in India we had Buddha, in China you had Lao Tse. So they were all 6th century BC. So you can call it a coincidence, you can call it whatever you wish. So, and they have therefore been very strongly influential in influencing the thoughts. The Socratic influence was saw its practicality in this. The early fathers of the church were essentially students of Plato Academy. So they were the people who were philosophers and who found a very validation of their teaching of the Socrates in the expression of Jesus. Therefore they became all converts to Christianity. So the early fathers of the church were therefore very pious people, because they came from that school. And that's why you find in the early period of Christianity there is a very large amount of number of saints and saintly people. If you read the life, you cannot escape being deeply impressed. St. Peter, St. Paul and others, really astounding people. When I went to this St. Peter's Square, the Vatican, and learnt about St. Peter's, I haven't learned much about it. But he said that he was also executed by the Romans. crucified. But he said, you don't crucify me in exactly the same way as Jesus. I don't deserve it. So he put me upside down. So he didn't protest, he followed him, and because he had set up the church and all that, started that. He's called the first pope. He started the teachings. So then he also got into the firing line. And when he was crucified, but he insisted that he should be crucified, but with the head down and the feet up. You just can think about the kind of mental purity of these people. Let us feel that. So in the initial part there were so many saints, and slowly it also became materialistic and all those. There are historical reasons for all that. And how the dilution took place, and how the schism took place, and how funny things happened. So that was well accepted in the history. Same thing happened with Buddha's teaching, same thing happened with Lao Tse's teaching. So they all got...
Did Lao Tse's teaching, become an organized, religion or organized
No,
institution?
not much. Confucius and Lao Tse had influence in the society for quite some time, because Confucius was more of practical teachings. So Confucian dialects were respected quite a lot. So it took secondary generation, in the very few people were able to preserve the teachings. It's not that they got completely extinct. Buddha's teachings were preserved in few parts. Lao Tse were preserved by monks, and then the Confucian teaching was preserved by some. Socratic teaching preserved very little. And then the changes took place. So we had a huge span of about 2000 years, acute materialistic fervor, from 2nd century, you can say 5th century onwards. And from 16th century onwards, it was completely materialistic, because science also developed in the same way. Materialistic perspective tried to strengthen that. And it has gone on till 20th century. And in 20th century, now that science has begun to question the materialistic perspective, again the issue is becoming stronger. That stream of non-materialistic thinking is now gaining momentum. It doesn't mean that the materialistic thinking stream has vanished. The two are coexisting. At this moment in our understanding, the materialistic thinking stream is extremely heavy. Non-materialistic is just like a small rivulet going on, but that also is gaining momentum. And the other one is slowly losing its momentum, because it is producing so much.
But that's where I got sort of stuck, which is that it seems to me, and maybe there is a mistake in how I am interpreting what Eckhart Tolle or Sri Aurobindo said. My understanding is कि वो लोग एक collective consciousness, एक सामूहिक उसकी बात कर रहे हैं, जबकि evidence seems to be कि व्यक्तिगत रूप पे चलिए कुछ हो रहा है.
But the number of people who are influenced is increasing.
Yeah. I think their collective was more of number of people rather than something.
Sri Aurobindo's close disciples were very deeply disappointed. I don't know whether you're aware. I am aware because one of them was a very good friend of mine. When Sri Aurobindo had announced that what he called as overmind has descended, and therefore there will be a major evolution of majority of the mankind will get changed, and it didn't happen. So there was quite a few of people who were shaken with that. So the belief, that some supermind will come and transform everybody is not born by evidence, and it's contradictory teaching of the Buddha. Had that been the case, the Buddhas, there couldn't be a bigger, powerful person than Buddha. He could have transformed everybody. He clearly says it's impossible. Even Ananda, for 25 years, he was serving him devotedly after he became a Sotapanna. He didn't move an inch ahead of it. And when Buddha was passing away, he told him, "You have served me so much. Now it's time for you to meditate and be free from all such." And he told him, "Don't worry, you have enough merits and you will certainly get enlightened." So this belief that overmind will come is a part of that avatara concept and that kind of a thing. It's a part of mixture of Hindu thought process, because Sri Aurobindo believed in that very strongly. You read his lectures on Gita, you'll find that. I read that. That was the first book I read written by him.
But does Eckhart ever mentions that? He generally says that this is the evolution of the...
Yeah, he mentions it more in a sense of supporting environment, which is true. Which is true.
तो हमने एक बार वो
ये तो हमारे अपने अनुभव में भी है ना, हाँ, monkey वाला जो 100 monkey example है, and it comes within our experience, you know, when 20 people meditate together, it affects each other. It can affect this way or that way.
Actually, the reason I am getting stuck, and I think maybe we should get into this because it will come there. Maybe let
the
but
question
collective
arise.
conscience probably more can be related to Sangha.
Yes,
Sangha will be
that's
formed
right.
and
The whole idea of Sangha was that.
Yeah, वो human हो सकता है मैंने तो जैसे पढ़ा है उसमें human evolution की वो बात है.
He talks of that as if it will happen automatically.
Also, it almost seems to me कि वो एक होल की बात कर रहा है कि पूरा जो
Mankind.
हाँ वो एक अग्रसर हो रहा है एक दिशा में. This is how I have.
Yeah, so that way it is not far from it.
तो दरअसल फिर
Not whole. Slowly the number of people moving in that direction is increasing. That we can also we can see it. The people getting attracted towards meditation, towards teachings of the Buddha. Young people getting, earlier it was all above 50, now it has then became below 40. Now it has become above 30. So slowly things are changing. Definitely. And you can see, I mean, different people have become instruments for that. Dalai Lama became a very big instrument. And apparently Dalai Lama's exodus became a very big instrument, you see.
And so I think Eckhart has also this influence of this new heaven and concept of Christianity, where the whole thing will renew completely, which is kind of supermind kind of a...
Yeah. So in the sense of, it's not going to be automatic. That's the point. Because the other Sri Aurobindo's writings, you conveyed, I don't know whether it's intended really, but it conveyed to his disciples the feeling that someday he will announce that supermind has descended and we'll all get enlightened. And he did announce, I think, and it didn't happen.
You mean in his own lifetime he said कि हाँ हो गया?
I think so. There is a account I don't know whether he or our mother said, but I think there was some such statement, and a close disciple who still lives in Australia, the scientist and in person, he told me that. The founder of TERI. TERI was actually founded in Pondicherry.
But Pachauri doesn't live there.
No, it was originally founded. Then Tata said we want to shift it to Delhi. And he said, I am not going to that. So Pachauri was his assistant. He said, go and do it. He said, I am not going to leave Pondicherry. He must now be 80, I think. C.L. Gupta is his name. Chamandala. He was a PhD in solar energy. One of the first PhDs in the country in solar energy. Till 70s he used to travel. He would come for conference to Delhi, IIT, and reach him and talk to him. Since I had interest in spirituality, so I had another way of interacting with him for a number of years. some of the students were professors in IIT, so they used to invite him. Chaliye, let's go ahead.
So the chapter actually opens with a short preamble or summary of what freedom from the pain body means and you know what might be the roots to that. And again, I think I found a lot of sort of similarity with the Buddha and all of Theravada.
Language. It is only question of language. You know. If you replace pain body by sankharas of aversion, exactly you can just use a translator and change the word, and you'll get sentences which will exactly match with it.
So it's only aversion, is it?
Yes. Those which cause suffering.
So, as we all understand well, this is the first step is in realizing that there is such a notion as a pain body, staying alert and present and noticing its arising. And he talks of it in terms of negative emotions, and I'll come to this in further detail as we go. And then he refers to
comments coming आ रहे हैं आप देख रहे हैं
he refers to a disidentification through a conscious noticing of the arising of the pain body. Interestingly, and I think this is a very Eckhartian sort of concept of the thoughts being fuel for a lot of what he refers to as the pain body. So I think what he says is that if we merely notice and observe instead of flowing with the thoughts, then it reduces the fuel to the pain body, which took me to actually how Goenkaji explains the whole Sankhara concept, and it just seems exactly the same.
Yeah.
And so I think the last bullet is very indicative of that. So he refers to energy of the pain body, which upon observation, through presence, through non-identification, transmutes to presence. And I'm sorry for that spelling mistake there. So he actually talks about how the pain body itself can fuel freedom from it. And I could identify very closely with how Goenkaji explains it and what our own experiences are. And on the next slide,
so it's basically, you can put it as experience of First Noble Truth, and you understand it. That's it. Isn't it? And if you follow that, if you don't take it personally, suffering, saying that it is a pain body means it's not you. You don't take it personally. You are practicing teachings of the Buddha. It's very helpful, I have found, and thanks to Ajahn Sumedho for that, in driving home this point, that Four Noble Truths are enough. If you analyze all experience in that paradigm, you choose any paradigm, Four Noble Truths, or you choose the paradigm of Panchakhandas, or paradigm of six ayatanas, Satipatthana, so many paradigms are given. Choose anything which suits you at a particular moment. You can fit in and analyze everything absolutely clearly.
but why is Eckhart only obsessed with the negative part of it?
Because it's suffering. The positive parts also actually become negative when they cause suffering.
Precisely.
So they are in some sense negative emotion.
You know, it's interesting where my mind went with this is that it almost seems to be related to marketing. क्योंकि ये चीज़ें they are more in terms of self help. तो क्या ऐसा हो रहा है, ये मेरे मन में विचार उठा क्या ऐसा हो रहा है कि क्योंकि इतने लोग पीड़ित हैं, क्योंकि he's got almost a huge cult following,
Because people have benefited from it.
Sure.
He has a very strong presence.
And I think if you look at, suffering is the core of most of the teachings. Buddha also said, I'll give you the way out of suffering. Any skeptic could look at it as a marketing also. Marketing to so many people who are suffering.
In fact, the cult of mindfulness has really become mindful. I read in that tricycle, somebody has called it Mac mindfulness. This is a Mac burger, so that Mac mindfulness. But a cult is certainly very true to the teaching. Because I remember आर्टिकल आपको मैंने शायद भेजा था ना, ये गूगल वाले करते हैं वो क्या
गूगल टॉक
नहीं गूगल वाले जो ऑर्गेनाइज कॉन्फ्रेंस है यार,
वो अपने
विजडम 1.0 विजडम 2.0, तो एक विजडम 2.0 कॉन्फ्रेंस हुई थी जिसमें गूगल, माइक्रोसॉफ्ट, ऑल सिलिकॉन वैली मेजर्स हैड कम, सिस्को एंड ऑल, एंड दे आर
विजडम 2.0 है विजडम 3.0
हाँ yes, that conference was held. And most of the meditation teachers were there, and Eckhart was also there. Most of the mindfulness teachers. So mindfulness people focused on the technique and told them ऐसे करते हैं, ऐसे फायदे होते हैं. And it was only Eckhart who dared to tell them, please don't use this to promote capitalism. So the person who wrote that review, he said it took only a non-Buddhist to tell them that you are using it for only promoting capitalism to gain your profit. Please also look at, he told them, please also look at what you are doing with the company I sold. So people got a bit shaken up after his talk. And so from that talk I can see, he can dare to tell all, he says all the CEOs of these companies were there and he told them. But none of the other mindfulness teachers was able to tell them so straight that they should also introspect into their own worldview.
So that's how most of the corporates, would be into it, because they would be into it because they believe if the employees are more mindful, they'll be more productive and they'll get more revenue.
That's understandable. I don't think I would anyway would contest it or depreciate it. But the point is that a good teacher would draw their attention to the basic teaching of the Buddha also. Basic teaching is of generosity, sharing. There is nothing wrong in earning profit, of course, but that should be accompanied by these factors. Caring for the others. There is no big deal of earning, not only earning, growing, and not only growing at a rate more than what he grew last year. There is a limit to everything. Why should a mere profit not be enough for a company to survive? Why should there be continuous profit and that should keep on increasing year after? How long will it happen? Someday it will stop. So if you have a positive outlook towards, and an outlook really which imbibes the teaching of the Buddha, not just the capsule of mindfulness, shorn of all other parts of teaching. That's what many of the teachers are now telling Americans especially. You have secularized Buddha into just mindfulness. You left aside all other teachings. All other dimensions of teachings have been rejected or ignored, or karma is ignored, the issue of rebirth is ignored, everything is ignored, then you have profit down to, and there are teachers who say so, you teach secular Buddhism. So the whole, if you don't take the complete teaching, there's, for example, Sumedho also mentions many places, that this whole thing that I am a practitioner of Vipassana but not, I am not a Buddhist, it's a joke. So what does it mean? You are afraid of calling yourself a Buddhist? Teach a follower of it? Or you want to be a kind of in the new age scenario? And what is your objection to, he says, what is your objection to going to a temple and praying there? What is the problem? Explain.
Actually, he directly attacks your conditioning.
He is amazing.
You get shaken up.
Amazing, you know. And he tells, I also thought so. He mentions it very, very clearly. Like when I went firstly and he said, say it 3 times, and pagal ho gaye, 3 times say it. And then he gives that example of, you know, the. नहीं चाय पिएंगे आज थोड़ी देर बाद. He tells about एक तो शरबत बनाना.
जल्दी निकल रहा हूँ आपको क्या देखना स्थिरता कम है.
Yeah.
तो 8:15 पे स्टॉप कर देंगे. आज चाय रहने देते हैं.
नहीं बना उससे कहते बना देंगे. बना दो बेटा. गीता. गीता. बना दो चाय. बना दो चाय.
Sudhakar came after long time. So
नमस्ते. नमस्ते कह दो. He's a very senior meditator.
You got to listen to him. So Sudhakar had this question again regarding pain body. Is pain body kaya sankhara?
It is the word which he uses is actually the repressed emotions. So it's not just kaya sankhara. It is the sankharas of ill will, anger, animosity. All those sankharas, chetsikas put together.
So I find pain body very similar to how Rodney calls resistance in ourselves. He says the freedom is from resistance to non-resistance, and he takes that continuum there. And I found something,
There different people use different words coming from different backgrounds. So, because Eckhart Tolle was not exposed to any teaching before he became enlightened. So then he studied later on. He tried to figure. He says it took him 3 years to understand what has happened to him. So naturally, because belonging to a Christian tradition, he can be influenced by that and tried to explain Christianity to Christians. And if you see his discourses on Light Tube, you will find invariably every discourse there will be 2 or 3 Christians calling him the hell, devil.
Not 2 or 3, almost 20-30%. There will be just there is a huge fight between his followers and the Christians.
They'll call him the devil and the agent of devil. And
but what is so special about him? वो तो कई लोग हैं जो ये बता रहे हैं.
Because quotes Bible.
I see.
He quotes Bible and tells them that you don't understand its meaning. This is the meaning. So they say agent of devil who is trying to create problems.
I think all these teachers, take you away from what, for example, Bible, says that you are the sinner and you cannot free yourself. Only Jesus will free yourself. He says, look at you, you can free yourself. Then you are devil.
So the kingdom of heaven is within you. He says, yes, it is within you. But what is that kingdom? Walk and see the consciousness. That is. So then he interprets it and then people get upset. So then that naturally it will happen. People who are strongly attached to perspectives. I remember when I first heard J. Krishnamurti live in 75, I was very much upset. क्या कैसे बोलता है? किसी ने मैं बैठा हुआ था, नहीं खड़ा ही था, तो जगह ही नहीं थी. एंड वो कहा था हॉल में होगा, वो बाहर बैठ गया लॉन में पेड़ के नीचे. तो फिर हम थोड़ा देर से पहुंचे तो खड़े रहे किसी तरह से. ऐसे शायद थोड़ा बहुत वो हो रहा होगा थकने का. किसी ने कुछ कह दिया कि भगवत गीता में ऐसा लिखा है. Just flared up like anything. Burn it, throw it away. Strong words used किए ना. So because of my strong conditioning, I was put off. क्या है? What is this person? If he doesn't agree, at least he talk properly. I just got put off, and I didn't really. Thereafter, I really couldn't grasp what he's saying. It seemed to me quite alien. So one can get put off. I know it from experience. One can get put off because of your past conditioning. And I can see the same thing happening to my fellow meditators. They get put off when you tell them, this is what Ajahn Singh says, that is what someone else says, and they are very revered as great accomplished meditation masters and teachers of Buddhism. You know, yeah, what is this? They're not talking of body sensations. कुछ और करने की जरूरत नहीं है. Just keep on observing sensations, everything will happen. वैसे ब्रॉडनी कहता है कि पिछले 50 सालों में कितनों का हुआ, तो कहता है किसी का नहीं हुआ. Not willing to listen. Of course, I stopped saying that. But initially in my enthusiasm, I used to talk. So only when people come and ask, जैसे ये आया था तो मैंने इससे बात की. I don't go and talk to anyone. अभी मैं कल परसों गया था कहाँ, एक सेंटर इनॉग्रेट हुआ मेरठ के पास, तो लोगों ने कहा था मैं चला गया. I didn't say anything, but some people came and talked to me and I explained to them. Because it's unnecessary way to make people upset people and
one can get more confused.
yeah. Or even somebody has a confusion and asks you something, then you can tell him, ये problem.
Actually, this is so profound and so deep that the unsolicited things generally can be more harmful than beneficial to the other person. If the person is in confusion, then he is looking for a way out.
Yeah.
If he is not looking for a way out, then he will actually block his ways if you ask him to go that way.
Yeah, there was an old student there who was sat 10, 50, 45 day courses, 30 day courses. Very senior old student. He had come here last year in search of certain queries. So he happened to be there. Then he naturally said, he told me, इनको बड़ी प्रॉब्लम होती है साधना में, ये समझ नहीं आ रही थी. ठीक है, we discussed for some time. But otherwise I find it's not productive to speak to anybody.
So this is question from Sugata. What is collective pain body? That
It is kind of collective sankharas of humanity. You know?
it can actually mean different things. Probably nations also, and then as a humanity also.
Let us believe that when there are catastrophes affecting large number of people, it is because the collective sankharas of the people have brought about that thing to happen. People who believe it, I don't know. I haven't read about this in anywhere in Buddha's teaching still now. I have not studied all of it, so I can't say.
But it
But
makes
Buddha
sense,
just
no?
talks about karma and its influence. He talks about disease arising because of karma. That is even Ayurveda believes in. That, and they specifically say that if the disease is born out of karma, the physician should refuse to treat it. If you can figure out.
In fact, one of the things that Eckhart writes is that as he gets out of the aircraft in a country, sometimes he just gets to feel whatever is the collective. वो Middle East का उदाहरण देता है वगैरह वगैरह.
That is true. That is, I have also felt. So one can therefore extrapolate from these experiences. It doesn't look like a blind belief, and that's evident.
So the first section actually ends with this quote, and I was wondering if you could elaborate on this, Darshan. One of the wisest, many of the wisest, most intelligent people once had a heavy pain body. It almost seems to me, before we go into it, that suffering is a precondition to wisdom and enlightenment.
Suffering is a precondition to freedom from suffering. So you can see the historical account of Buddha. So he obviously suffered a lot when he saw those incidents, kingdom and people suffering and all that.
But did he really? Because there are others who've argued that actually he spent his first, whatever, 29 years in pure luxury,
Yeah.
you know.
Not
And
all
therefore-
that, not all that. In fact, even in that luxury, he could see this suffering. Even in that, there are stories associated with that. When he recalls his after enlightenment, there's a discourses where he recalls his previous life. He says that even there, he doesn't actually talk about those four sides and all that in his discourses, which is the legend. He actually talks about reflection. That I thought that why should I be subject to old age and death and still enjoy things which are bound to die? So he reflects like this. He says, I was surrounded by all kind of luxury, and then I would land and then I would feel a kind of a sense of emptiness. Then he sees it. So it is not as if he didn't know people are dying. He knew. At least the discourses shows that people are subject to death, subject to old age, and they suffer. I am also going to subject. Should I not seek a path which is out of it? So this is the kind of queries he raises in that discourse. So that Arya Paryaveshana Sutta. You can read that sometime. Where he recalls his own search for the noble path. It seems to be true in most of the cases.
But there's a discovered invertery that does that heavy pain body automatically mean,
Not automatic.
you know,
It's obviously not automatic. Had it been, then we would have had a circuit of enlightened people. It's not automatic, obviously. It's how we take it, whether we investigate it or not. Basically that. If we take it personally, then we will suffer. And we will blame others, society, people, friends. If not anybody, then God. You can blame God easily. He's the best.
and so is it reasonable to conclude that
Quite often, this is true. Quite often. I won't make it as an axiom.
But I really liked, what Vishal said last in one of the discussions where Eckhart does mention this again, and I think people brought it up. Vishal said that, it's not necessary that you will have to look at the anybody of this birth. Recently, people have born very recently, but it is not applicable to them. But you have to see that they must have gone through so much of pain and reached to a point that they're close to enlightenment, and then they were born in that saintly body. And at least from their life story, it doesn't feel like that they were in that lifetime. They got a huge suffering and then suddenly got enlightenment. They kind of had all those karmas with them before.
and I think Rajesh, that's the point of faith. He often refers to faith.
Right.
We can't prove it. No? We cannot prove it. Because Buddha says in his discourses this, so we believe. He says that when Abhinya arose, first Abhinya which arose was that I saw my own birth after birth, innumerable births. And then I saw the same thing happening with people. And then I understood how people were dying and how they were reborn in this life, in that sport. So the whole principle of karma became transparent. If we were able to trace, for example, our last 20
while he was mentioning about senior meditator.
बहुत बेचैनी होती है तो क्या करें? क्या करें? नॉर्मली तो ये कहा जाता है कि भाई बेचैनी हो रही है तो फटाफट सांस छोड़ दे दो और बेचैनी कम हो जाएगी। तो है वो कुछ एक लेवल पे तो ठीक है, लेकिन एक लेवल पे वो एस्केपिज्म, ये बड़ा मुश्किल लगता है। एस्केपिज्म कैसे है? तो देख रहे हैं जो हो रहा है उसको देख रहे हैं, तो अंदर तो यही इच्छा है ना, इसको देखने से वो निकल जाएगा।
Versus
You cannot cheat yourself. Mind cannot, because mind cannot cheat itself. How can you cheat?
so it's the volition that's the problem there.
Therefore, that's why I like very much Ajahn Sumedho's thing. कभी मैंने किसी को कहा, suffering should be welcome. Forget about understanding. और जैसे हमने वो देखा था ना, मैंने एक को पोस्ट भी किया था उसमें फेसबुक में, उसकी रूमी की पोएट्री, रिमेम्बर?
So can we
गेस्ट हाउस.
recap for last minute? There was this disconnection in our audio. What was the topic we were talking about?
This quotation we are discussing.
Last 1 minute.
Yeah. Last one
Maybe
minute.
just when you were telling about the lady.
Yeah, what we were discussing was that when I, in my meditation practice or in my day-to-day life, if I get anxious, if I get upset, what should be my response to it as a good meditator? Especially during meditation or even opportunities when I have in the home, as a household lady. So the one way approach is that you just be aware कि बेचैनी हो रही है, सांस को देखो, संवेदना को देखो और उसको निकल जाएगी. It's good. There's nothing wrong in doing so, because in a way you are seeing the effect of that बेचैनी. But a much better, in my opinion, is to examine what is our perspective. अगर हम सांस संवेदना को इसलिए देख रहे हैं कि इससे हमको दुख से छुटकारा मिल जाएगा, तो ये एस्केपिज्म हो जाएगा. तो मन में हमारे द्वेष बना है उसके प्रति, उस बेचैनी के प्रति द्वेष है ना, उससे हम छूटना चाहते हैं. तो हम अपने आप को चीट नहीं कर सकते. वी कैन नॉट चीट अवर ओन माइंड. अंदर से तो हमने ये सोचा है, ऊपर से कह नहीं समता है, ऐसा नहीं चलता.
There's a madhyam.
You have to just go through the fire. Accept it. Yes, there is suffering, and don't rush to observe it and get away with it. Sit down peacefully and see what suffering looks like. That's what Ajahn Sumedho tells, and I find it absolutely profound, and it works like anything. It works like anything. The moment you accept it, कि ठीक है भाई, this भगवान ने कहा there is suffering, तो है ना. This human realm, this is what Sumedho says, this human realm is the realm of suffering. So don't think you can run away from it. And the moment you accept that this is the realm of suffering, you are free. You accept it really.
Yeah.
So
don't try to run away from it.
उसका माध्यम तो फिर भी वही observation है ना.
No, you observe what is happening to you in the suffering.
There's no difference in what you.
There's a difference in attitude.
In the volition.
Because volition matters, not the technique. It is the volition which matters.
I was really, amazed by one of the Ajahn Sumedho's answers on one question where somebody said that he knew a very noble person who has not done any bad deed in his whole life, and he lived a very saintly life, and early in the middle life he got cancer and he died, and you saved so much of karma. Can you tell me why did he die? That's such a painful death. He said the only answer is he was born. I was shocked. How can you say that the only answer is he was born? I think the Shastra was saying that this is a conditioned realm. This is a realm of birth and death. If he was born, he was bound to die. If you are born to get deceived. what else is the reason to get disease? The body is to get disease, it is to get disease. If the mind is to get suffering in this realm, it will get suffering in the realm. There is no escape from it.
There's even more strident answer to it. So there's in fact a beautiful poem also by Khalil Gibran. That prophet is a masterly poet. So there's that issue of murder or killer or something. It says the person who is murdered and there's a murderer. So the person who is murdered cannot be completely innocent. See that statement, it's such a shaking statement. So what is being pointed out in I think in Ajahn Sumedho, one of the discourses also he points out, or probably Buddha himself points out, I don't remember exactly. The very fact that you are born, one thing is the reality of birth leads to suffering, old age and death. Other thing is the very fact you are born means you are not innocent. So it's a more strident answer.
Yeah.
But it's a fact. अब वो किसी को सुनने में बुरा लग सकता है ना, तो ये बड़ी मुश्किल हो जाती है ना. So you have to see कि किसको जवाब दे रहे हो. अब राजेश को तो जवाब मैं जैसा दे सकता हूँ. अब मैं अपने छोटे भाई को ऐसा जवाब दूंगा तो मेरे को बहुत नाराज हो जाएगा. What the hell do you mean?
तो घर में भी कहीं किसी को कुछ बोल नहीं सकते कि मैं क्यों बीमार हुआ. शरीर बीमार तो हो गई. That is not an answer that we can give to anybody at home.
Actually, this happened with me recently. My mother's younger sister passed away very recently and very suddenly. She developed this ALS, जो Stephen Hawking था. And I think within 3-4 months she was gone. And my mother, and she's a meditator, so I think she dealt with it well. But somewhere this lingering thing was,
why me?
Why her? And this lady went through a lot of suffering. She had an abusive husband. And this was playing to my mother's mind. And I really struggled to say this, you know, to really say this. When I tried to play around with that ripening wala business, but this is a difficult thing to say.
Yeah, very, very difficult. You have to see whether the person is
ready to. वही और वो emotional states में दरअसल वो receptivity भी नहीं होती.
Unless you are a very profound meditator, you cannot receive. Even then, they I think get upset. Many meditators I have noticed they will not be able to retain. There is a story about Ajahn Brahm falling ill. He calls in one of his discourses. He fell very critically ill, so he was admitted in a hospital. Then he talks about that hospital, government hospital. कैसी हमारी केयर होती है बड़ी जबरदस्त.
And then what happened?
He was ill and critically quite ill. So एक दिन देखा कि वहाँ हॉस्पिटल में बड़ा शोर शराबा हो रहा है, तो लोगों से पूछा क्या हो गया. कहते हैं आज अजान शाह आ रहे हैं, उससे मिल ले. अजान शाह आ रहा है. Great. He says I was so happy that after he is caring and he's come to see me and he bless me and I'll get okay and all that. He came to me, saw me and told him, Brahmavaso, either you get all right or you will die.
This is a real story.
Yeah. Ajahn Brahm ने decide किया.
Ajahn Jha is so straightforward.
He said, I was so angry. इसीलिए ऐसा क्या तुम मेरे को यहाँ बताने के लिए.
Either you get all right or you die.
This is one more example.
Now imagine you going to a relative telling him that. The relation तो खत्म हो गया ना.
There is one more similar example कि कोई अजान चाह की मोनेस्ट्री में रहा और वो अजान चाह के पीछे पड़ गया कि आप मेरा हाथ देख के बताओ कि मेरा क्या फ्यूचर.
That story is there.
फिर क्या बोला?
5 मिनट तक अजान
5 मिनट तो कहते हैं ये no this नया आता है ड्रामा करते हैं उसके सामने. Oh no, oh no. वो तो एक्साइट होता रहता है. एंड में क्या कहते हैं?
Your future is
अनसर्टेन. Amazing.
बट दिस जोक अपार्ट दर्शन, ये एस्ट्रोलॉजी वगैरह में आपका क्या विचार है?
ठीक है, स्टैटिस्टिक्स में क्या विचार है आपका? I treated him that manner.
Sir, Mr. Shiva has joined first in the session today.
Namaste, namaste. Tell him, welcome him formally.
So how did you like it? That
So you can conclude because
Yeah.
today
yes, sir.
sister आ रही हैं आपकी?
नहीं मेरी सिस्टर है नहीं सर, मेरे brother-in-law आ रहा है.
You think thank you to you, sir.
Okay.
So Arpan also got the taste of starting the presentation with one slide.
हाँ ऐसा ही हुआ है.
I think he prepared around 15 of them at night, midnight. Right?
तो उसको बनाने में अच्छा है. I was actually through the week I was